And here we go. I've got a 1/8 inch lunar blender. I'm going to start in on the ears. So take traditional raw umber on the blender, rub it off, and we're just going to start off with this brown just to kind of get us in the mood. And you're coming up and fading in. It's fairly light. We'll add black in a bit. Now, it may look like we're filling in the whole ear, but I don't know. That's not the plan. The plan is to have it a little bit dark on the outer edges and then fade it as we come inwards. So it's kind of like a warm gray, I guess. We're not really trying to keep the pink so much. It's not supposed to be super pink. If you recall, his inside of his ears are a little bit pink, but mostly dark. And actually that, what you'd think is purplish color, that's coming kind of later. So still a few steps. So take a little bit of black now on that brush. I didn't wash it. And basically you're doing the same thing, kind of bringing it in and fading it. Right. Now, wipe off that black and maybe pick up a little bit of your French mauve and wipe that off too. So I've picked up French mauve on that dirty brush and I've wiped up most of it, and now I've got a gray. A lighter gray, but it is a gray. And start in the middle and fade towards outer edges. We're just kind of smoothing it and maybe lightening it up a bit. There's going to be ear fluff on this too, so don't stress too much over this part. Okay. And now you can wash your brush. So it should technically be a little darker on the outer edges, a little bit grayer or lighter gray on the inner edges. And we're going to now take our 3/8 angle and make a very transparent side load. And just bring it up the inner corners here. That's a little bit, if it gets a little bit strong, you don't like it, just give it a little touch with the mop. But it is a black kitty, so we're okay. And then I'll do the other side too. There we go. When it's dry, you could come along here as well. Alright, ears are pretty much done, just a little fluff, but we're good. We are going to rake some highlights on his black fur first, and again, you have to remember that nice fur is built up in several layers. So yes, there's highlight there, and that's pretty much all you see, but we're going to put some in a few other spots as well, and we're going to do it with French mauve. So French mauve is a light color, so we will put a little drop of the glazing medium, whatever you have decided to use. Mix that up. Hopefully you've looked at that free video on my website as well, just to kind of give you a little bit of a more in-depth instruction. Okay, so you keep adding water so that it's going to flow off the brush, and put out a few little drops of water on your palette as well, so that you could just pick up one drop or two to adjust. So make sure you blot up here, get that extra moisture out of this area, and then just kind of wiggle it back and forth. Don't grind it, none of this grinding thing, just firmly but gently wiggle it back and forth in the puddle, and that's just bringing that paint up so that we don't have to load all the time. And now we're going to just put in some little tiny hairs. Now I'm putting a lot of lines on there, or brush strokes, and it's not showing, so I need to go back and adjust. And there we go. Now every time you put your brush down, you should get something. And we're just going to put a few lines here, a little bit there. Don't put too much. We know that's going to actually end up to be dark, so let's see if we can try. It's hard to match these little guys up. So I'm going to put some lines along here, along the shoulder, and a few down here in this little chest area. Should have nice little thin lines like that. Now here we go with his cheek. We're going to just do some little tiny lines here. See, I'm just basically tapping. And now we've got a left side, as well as we can see the right. And it's nice to see these little lines here, these little whisker pocket lines. And I'm going to pick up another dot on my wax palette. So all I did was I picked up a little dot here, and I went around here and wiggled it back in. And now I'm going to do a little bit on his cheek. Again, not too much. We know it's going to end up being black, so we're just doing a little something something. And we do want this to be a little bit bright. So I'm coming down toward the nose. A little bit under the cheeks. The other thing is that you can sort of practice thinking about how the fur is rolling along to create the form of his little face. So comes up here like this. See how I'm on the till edge of my brush, and I'm coming around the eye, around here, and then up into the ear. Don't come straight up and end up here. You'll end up with a very surprised looking animal. And that's really kind of those two spots there and the cheeky part there. Those are the ones that are important. pretend we have an eye in there and coming around and don't do any more than that. And then we're going to do the white, and that will be a little bit more work. We're going to do the same thing with the warm white. It's another sticky color. Sits up, and that just means it's going to take a little extra work to get it to the right consistency to work with this brush. And that's why we're putting a little helping hand in there. If we just used water, it would thin it, but it weakens the paint. So that's why you kind of want to use a glazing medium of some sort. Alright, so we've got that plop done, and we've got to add a little bit more water. See, this one's quite a bit thicker, so you have to work at it a little bit more, just a little bit more. Adding water. If you don't do this step, then the brush just isn't going to work for you. You really have to make sure that this step is done correctly. And you really don't know if it's going to work until you try it. You can try little things like just kind of pull your brush through and watch it kind of come together. If it comes together fairly quickly, then you're on the right track. If you like see how it just kind of stays upright in that puddle, so it just means you have to work a little bit. And so then you're going to put your extra dots on your palette, and I've washed the brush because mixing it mucks up the brush. And that's one step, step one. But the second step would be to come in here and wiggle it back and forth to actually load the brush. And you can see when I pull it away from me, it really doesn't look like I have much on the brush. And that's kind of what you're going for, so that we have a little bit more control. Now, sometimes, you know, we water it down. Let me just move this out of the way. We water it down a little too much, and that's not good either, but you'll be able to figure out if you've got it within a couple of strokes. Should just kind of flow right off the brush. Oops. See, I don't like it when it's kind of clumped up like that, so just kind of try to get your brush loaded back on the wax palette there, and then continue on. So again, you're just sort of starting from the skin and lifting your brush at the end of the stroke. Fill it in here. It's only the beginning. Remember what I said. All this stuff takes a little bit of layers, and yeah, okay, it's just a little thing, but we still want it to look cute. And then when you're here, this little tiny chin, and we have a little jaw area, and you can start to fill in that little section that we left, because we don't want it to stay there the whole time. We just want it so that we know where the edge of him is. And then super careful in here, try to keep those little whisker pocket lines. You may lose one or two, that's okay. But it does give them a little character. Okay, now little feet. So we've got this coming down this way. Come right over his toes. Okay, and you know, kind of go a little left, a little right. get all his little toes in, and then flip it around and have a little spikiness happening here. Because if you look at their feet if they were hanging over something like that, you'd have little hairs poking up. And we'll do the other side, same idea. Kind of fill it all in, just like tap, 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 tap. And then finish up that edge with some spikies. Okay. We'll have a little shadow to come, and we'll do another layer of this too, but we kind of have a pretty good start on that fur. Let's do some work on the barrel. We kind of have to do a little bit because he's sitting in the barrel, so we're going to just make some little scratchy lines in a few colors and do a little float behind him. So we're going to do pineapple, and this time we're not going to put that stuff in, that glazing medium, because we actually do want it to be kind of scratchy, and we're trying to make wood grain this time around. So just bring some, you need to water it down a little bit so that it actually does flow. But I just kind of pulled some down. Thick and thin is fine. There we go. And keep it all uneven so that it's, disappears into the barrel, into the shadows. Now we will take our angle shader and we are going to do a side load, and we are going to tuck Gibbs in. So bring that brown up like that. You can come along here too, although we've got more on the fur. But just to give yourself an idea of what it's going to look like. And bring it up behind little Parrot. Plus, let's just do a little bit behind the barrel here too. It's not a lot. Not super heavy. Just adds a little bit more dimension. You can see I'm just taking the mop brush. Kind of softening it away there. I'll be back and I'll deepen that once things are dry. Okay, so that pineapple is a very pasty color. So we need it to highlight, but we don't actually like it. So let's just put a little wash very quickly of the raw sienna on there. And then what we'll end up doing is we will, you know, put some spiced pumpkin back over and that kind of stuff, just to kind of want it brownish, not as orange as the background, but we don't want it to jump forward too much. So just quickly chuck on a raw sienna wash. It can be as thick as you would like. And then we'll go back with our rake brush. Maybe we don't even need to wait for it to dry specifically. And just again, what we're trying to do is just take away some of that pale and pastiness. Even though we still need it one more time, we're going to need to do a little bit of a highlight. But so we got a little raw sienna on there. We're going to chunk on some pumpkin or spiced pumpkin and let that dry. And then we'll go back to the hair. There's a little fur. And we'll continue on. So it's drying away there. You can see my chunks of spiced pumpkin. And now we are going to rake some black fur. I'm still with the 1/4 inch filbert grainer. I like to use that one as long as I possibly can. Just loads up better, and the 1/8, I don't know, it sometimes is temperamental. So what we're going to do now is work on the black fur and just have a look at his chest. You see how he's got white bits coming over and black bits underneath. So we're going to work our black back that way so that when we bring our warm white, we can bring that back over top. That's the plan. So here we go. We're going to just take it like that and just bring it gently toward the chest area. Okay. And don't worry about your coverage or anything like that. It takes time. Work on the edge. Oh, I forgot to tell you that this is a dark color now, so we did not put any of that stuff in it. You don't need that stuff. It doesn't need any help. Dark colors are already on their way to transparent anyhow. So, okay, so just see how gently, gently, gently we're trying to make this edge as cute as it possibly could be. Now, when you come up to the paw, remember we have these little pokey bits of white. So we want to keep going with that theme. And there's that highlight. I don't know, is that his wrist? Could be his wrist. Just notice how I'm changing the direction, always changing the direction and just thinking your little fuzzy thoughts. That's about what we want. Still a little patchy. Okay, and so on this side, we're going to do the same thing. Take your brush and your black and sweep it backwards into his beautiful, handsome chest. Even though he's just a little guy, he's got a wonderful chest marking and his beautiful hair. Take care of this edge, make it nice. down into this side's little paw. It's a little bit straight, so I'm going to adjust it just a bit, make it a bit rounder. Okay, so still I managed to hang on to my highlights there. I can kind of see the form of his shoulder and his little arms. And so now we're going to zoom up here and get some black going as well. So make sure you bring a few little lines down into that white marking. Take care of the edge. Make it a little crisscrossy. Don't make him grow too much though. When you come to a highlight area, you just want to put a few little black lines. He is all black with only this faint bit of highlight. Okay, I'm running out of paint here. Load up again. That's a sign of a well-loaded brush if you can go a long time with one load. That means you loaded that brush up nicely. Okay, so coming up here and just sweep gently, have some fluff coming up. And then same thing on his ears. So have some coming this way toward that over top there, and then a little bit fluffing out. Make a nice little hairdo here. So same thing here. Look, I'm up on the just two little bristles here. Such a narrow little area. You want it nice and fluffy, and as you come around the tip, just tap, 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 tap. And then we want some fluff coming out this way too. You see, it was up on these two bristles here when I was coming up this side, and now I'm on those other two bristles as I come around the eye. So make sure that you roll your brush around and do what you need to do to stay in the area you're painting. And we're down to the last little teeny weeny bit here, super small. Tap, 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 tap. Okay, so you see, you can still see background through there. That's okay. We got all some hair. We've got nice edges. Maybe we put a few little lines here. Sometimes kitties have little bits of fuzz up this sort of outer area, and I just kind of pull it in just gently, just a little bit. And then we will take our oval mop and we're going to just take a wee bit of raw sienna and bring in some shadow. Just along his jawline. Now you're not making a collar, so I don't want to see this straight little edge all the way along. I'm just going to pull it down and a little bit of shadow in here, maybe a bit along his mouth. Do you need any on the feet? I don't know, maybe. There we go. So you could change to your 1/4 inch. Oops. Yep. I got black in my brush. You could change to your your 1/8 inch now for the white if you want to. Sometimes it's better on edges. If you haven't soaked your brush, then why don't you just chuck it in the water bin right now so that it'll be ready for when you actually do want it. I'm going to stick with this one for a bit longer, I think, but the option's there. Now here's where we really want to make sure that we have at least filled in or lessened that line, because now we have a shadow in there. And if you want to join the white up into the black, then just kind of pull it gently backwards. And if we have to put the shadow back in, that's okay. We can do that too. Oh, looking handsome. Looking very handsome. Same thing here, just whiten it up. Same way as what we did before. So the 1/4 might be a little bit easier now. I say I'm just going to hang in here as long as I possibly can with this brush. Put up the little pokies. Try to be a little bit erratic with them. Have some longer and some shorter. Okay, coming together. Because this is a Halloween thing, we're going to just do a little bit more purple in the piece. You're going to take your 1/4 inch oval mop and we are going to wash Mr. Gibbs, his black fur, with the deox purple. And that's going to sort of fill it in a little bit and give it just another little, another layer, I guess. I like layers. We started off with the brown, put a little bit of black on. Now we'll put some purple, and then we'll finish with black, because he is supposed to be black, of course, and we want that to happen. So wash over the whole thing, anywhere there's black, and I did just put a little something something on the ears. That was what we saw way back when we're doing the ears, and we thought, is there pink in there or not? But there isn't pink, other than that initial French mauve, but that's what that extra little blush is. And because we just feel like it, we are also going to take that same brush and we are going to add a little extra spiced pumpkin, ever so lightly with this, ever so lightly. So put it on and make sure it's not splotchy, not like it doesn't, all soft edges is what I'm trying to say. So if you put it on, it's too much, add the water and take a little bit off. It's only supposed to be a little extra something before we put our final coats, final layers of fur. And now we're going to just finish up the fur. So you've got a couple of choices here. One is you could take your lavender and you can put your highlights in just to make sure that you don't lose them. Or you could do the black first, and I've done it both ways, and it's really doesn't really matter. So I've got the lavender in there for the arms, and it looks a little strange right now, but when you put that black back on, it kind of softens it, and then it's just a wee highlight. And that's all you're looking for. You're just looking for a little bit of a highlight to show that he's got a little arm there. And you can see I'm just putting the black back on, sort of in a sweepy manner, taking care of edges again. And I've got, I'm still using that quarter. Use it as long as you possibly can. Maybe the 1/8 would be nice along the edge there, just to give you a different sort of a look. Okay, so now I've got this pretty black. The whole idea right now is to fill in so that you don't have too much of the orange or background or whatever sort of showing, but you still want to have that arm thing happening there. So let's do this on the other side, and then we'll do the head. Just kind of get the practice going here. You know, kind of figure out what we're doing, and then we can jump up on the head and finish that up. Now, just because we did the purple first this particular time, it doesn't mean that we can't go back and just do some extra bits. So you can see on this one, I did go back and I just put a little bit up on his shoulders too. You still want him to be a black cat because that is his cuteness. But you can still have a little bit of fun with it. And then when you do, if you do want to have a little bit more showing, Like so, for instance, there I got a little carried away and I lost it. I want a little bit more. I could just do the lavender, or I could play around with some brush mixes too, and go a little bit brighter by adding a little white to my lavender. Try not to make this whole thing go straight over to the edge. Try to let it fade off. See, and then I'll just put a little sweep, 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 sweep there, and a little sweep, 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 sweep here. And of course, if you do too much, then you're back to black and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But that's the plan there. And now we're going to do his face. So I'm going to go to the 1/8 for this little nose piece here. So we're just going to try to get a little triangular nose piece. And based on what you did down here, you can decide to go maybe a bit brighter right off the bat. And remember that the other areas that we want to really make sure we've got a nice little highlight, it'd be over the eye. And we need to have some just under the eye here on that cheekbone. Make sure he looks just the right amount of menacing. And then we have his little cheeky parts here. Oops, so I brush mixed a little bit of white in there, and maybe it's a bit too bright, but that's okay. The brush is going well. I like what I'm doing, so I'm just going to stay with that. Knowing that I can always come back with a little bit of black and just adjust that. Now, you've got a couple options for the ears too. Because I'm always doing a very specific kitty in my life, I just, add some steps that maybe you're not that interested in. And this one is, he had a few light ear fluff parts and then he had black. So if you would like to do that, I got my 1/8. And I just have white, light purple, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And I'm putting a few little white ones, light ones on there, and then I will be doing black. And I'll go back to my 1/4 for the black parts. Alright, that's just... Alright, so just, again, I'm kind of doing more of a sweep, sweep, sweep. We have enough lines, we have a nice edge. You don't really need to work too hard at this. Mostly, you're just going to be careful as you come up to a little spot like this. And then maybe a few little hairs down into your white. Make sure that you come up tight to that patch, because when you come back to the patch, it'll just end up growing, and it's big enough, or mine is anyways. And you'll come down, come over top and into that little highlight that we've put in there. And that's why maybe you could make it a little bit brighter than you think you want. And then you see, just kind of sweep, 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 sweep back. And then here we go into those little whisker pocket areas. And if I decide that I want, if that's just too bright, I'm going to put a little bit of black over top, press it with my finger, and you're almost just kind of washing it or coloring it in a few spots, just so that it doesn't look too purple. And again, so if you see a little spot that just needs some black, make sure you put that in there. You want him handsome. Being very careful when you come to the edge, and then flick up a few little fluffy bits in front of the ear. Just have your finger ready to give it a little tap if it gets a little carried away. The thing is with black is it looks really, really dark when you are painting it, when it's wet, and then it seems to dry dull and not as dark. However, when you put your varnish on, it will go back to that nice, beautiful black. So, you know, don't get too carried away. See how it's kind of dulling there, and you think, oh, well, maybe I'll just go back and put more on. No, just relax. Okay, so that's where the area I have to be careful. This area here, I don't have to be too careful. I could have a little highlight at the top of the head. I mean, you can fuss as long or as much as you want. I tend to like to fuss a bit, especially when it's a kitty, because I want him just perfect. But pretty much you just want a cute little guy. Okay, come up here, and we will also put in our black ear fluff. And just on the chisel edge for this, or you could go back to your 1/8. There we go. Okay, so you see I could put some in there, but on the other hand, you know, we have a eye patch. So I'll leave it for now. And you can always, once it's dry, decide to go back and maybe I need to just have a little bit around here. Just especially in those spots where it comes up tight and maybe you've tried to avoid making a mess of your base coats, and maybe you need to just kind of come up and make sure around the eye and that eye patch that you have exactly what you want, so that when we do the eye and the patch, you don't end up with this empty space of like, what is it supposed to be, an eye patch or fur or whatever, and all it is background showing through. And so the next step, of course, would be to do the white. Now, by now, I'm not sure if your white needs to be, if you need to make another patch of your white. Mine's all purple now, so I'm going to just make sure that I have fresh paint to work with. Okay, so I put that stuff in, mix, 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 mix. Wipe off your brush, mix it up, put some little dots on this side, get yourself all set up, and then probably I'd start in the middle here, and again I'm just sort of sweeping back and forth, trying to get this little area right in the middle, the brightest white. Sweeping left, sweeping right, and then as we come out to these little edges, really make sure that you've got some nice lines right up on that chisel edge. If there's a black piece that you just can't stand and you need to have it covered, then pick up a little bit thicker paint and just try to get that. So you want to have a few of those. So when I'm in the middle, I'm like flat like this, using the full brush, coming down into those shadows down at the bottom. And then when I'm on the edge, making the handsome chest where the two things meet, then I'm on the chisel edge and just pulling out little lines. Okay, well, I like that side better. You're always going to like one side better than the other. And then you have to decide, oh, do I fuss and continue? Do I bring the black back? I think I'm alright. It's up to you, of course. Alright, so now I'm liking that chest. And I'm going to change to my 1/8 for the chin, and again it's edges. The edges are what's going to show as furry. There we go. Just make sure you like that little chin, put that in first, then come to the jawline. You can always finish up too with a liner if you really can't get something in there that you want. Get something on the end of my brush. Do you like your cheeky part? I do. I like the shape of it. I like the fact that I've got these little bits coming out here where the black's coming this way and the white's going that way. So I'm not going to do too much there. And then, of course, I've just got this edge of jaw. Okay, and he does have very handsome whiskers, so that will bring it all together. All right, and now just these little paws. Not too much really on the paws. It's going to be just kind of get them white. Very quickly, tap, 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 and then it's going to be the top part. Now, if you had a liner, do I have a liner? No, apparently I don't have a liner close by. So I'm just going to end up doing it with the quarter, or the 1/8. That 10-0 liner sometimes is like really a good one to do something like this with. You want to have a few spikies. You don't want to have it all the same. He's a kitten for sure, but there we go. Change the direction. Have some coming this way, have some coming that way. Don't have it like a little military crew cut, I guess. All right. That's it. I think we should probably do an eye. So looking at him, I see I have two differently shaped ears. So I would go back and I'd fix that because I have to fix that. On this particular one, the original, I have it more even. So basically I couldn't stand it, and so I just took my 3/8 angle, and what I did was I rounded this one a little bit, and then I went up here and I pointed that one a little bit. So when you're fixing something, always make sure that you know that there's two ways to do things. You could make them both round and then you could fuss only on this one. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Much better to do a little something here and a little something there. There. Now I like them. I'll put more black. a little bit more black fuzz in the ear too. There we go. Now we're ready for eye. So have a look at the iris, and you may have wrecked it with all the other things we've done. So you may have to rebase it. I almost always rebase. And, well, with this little guy, you don't have to try to make the eyes the same. Poor Gibbs. Not so poor Gibbs. He was a lovely boy. So while that's drying, let's put another coat of lavender on the eye patch. And mostly that's just going to be an undercoat, because I pretty much had it, you can see it's a darker purple. So the Deox purple, of course, doesn't cover very well, so we kind of had to do an undercoat. And let's get the eye patch, the tie, kind of curve it around as if it was going behind the head. So for this one, just make sure that you've got that figured out before you start painting. I could have made it a little bit rounder, but that's okay. Okay, so that's, for the little one here, the short one, it's no problem. Right around, but this one here, you could draw it in with a chalk pencil too, if you like. And make sure you like the shape of it. Slightly curved at the top, maybe slightly coming down around here at the bottom. And we'll just have to maybe, do we like the eye? Do we like the iris? Looks a little wider on that one. I'm going to make this one a little bit wider too, because there's not a lot of color. You know, he's a black kitty, so let's just make that a little bit wider. If the pineapple is dry, you could just do a little wash of raw sienna on that. And for the eye patch, you could either just paint it with the two filbert, with the Deox purple, or, you know, whatever brush you happen to have handy. I'm just doing it with the 1/8 lunar blender. And do you like your pupil? Is it black enough? I'm going to just put another little coat of black. And I'm just doing just basically redoing what we did at the beginning to make sure it's exactly what we want. I like to have my eyes to be slightly open at the top. I don't like the line to be too flat here. I like them to be wide open, innocent. There we go. Oh, and while we're just, you know, doing all that and letting things dry, that sort of stuff, we can also rebase the nose. Because that's probably got little lines maybe of purple in there, and Alright, and let's just put a little highlight. We don't even have to wait for that to dry. Let's just put a little highlight in there with, oh, let's say lavender, maybe a little lavender and white. Just a little dash along the top. And that should, everything should be dry now, so we are going to do a little float. Oh no, let's do the highlight first. Let's do the highlight first. But the float is going to be traditional raw umber. And the highlight, you are going to just, let's pick up a little bit of pineapple. So we've put pineapple as an undercoat. And then we put raw sienna on there. And then with this one round again, and just no water in the brush, just kind of pick up some of that thick chunky pineapple and just gently sweep it in there at the left, starting here at the left and kind of sweeping around to the right. And then we will put our float of traditional raw umber. And we're going to put that at the top here, and the top there. If you want more, you can add a little bit of black. Well, I might have put a little black on that too. If you do black, make sure it's just a little something. Just makes them a little bit more serious looking. When you have got everything in the spot that you would like, then I finally found my 10-0 liner and I just popped in the highlight. We're going to do the eye patch. Let's see. We put the Deox purple on the patch and put a little bit on the tie as well, and then as we come along, let's pick up, just don't wash your brush. Oops, it's a little fluffy. Don't wash your brush. We're just going to try to get a little depth in here. So I've got it brightest right in here, so I kind of come here, press a little bit, come back up, press a little bit, come back up, press and come back up. So what color do I have on there? Pretty much I've got Deox purple on there, I've got lavender on there, and I've got white. And let's do the same thing here. So skinny and thick and skinny. And I would say that's too bright. No worries, because I reloaded is what my problem is there. And so I'm just going to take some lavender, take some purple, and make it the way I should have made it in the first place. Thinking that I actually kind of like that light now, and so here we go again. This time I'm going to put lavender on with just a little bit of light. I want it to be brightest right there. And I want it to be brightest right there. And there. So you've got some values happening here, and that's going to give you, you know, like a more of a 3D effect. And then just, you can put on his little fish skeleton. So that's the head. We got the tail, large, medium, small, large, medium, and small. He's an official pirate now. So we just have to finish off the barrel and of course get his little friend. And I put the whiskers on last because they go over top of his little friend. So let's get the barrel finished up. Not all that much to do on the barrel really. We're going to take that pale and pasty pineapple again, and we're going to just find the tops of those barrel staves and just maybe pull it down. There we go. There. So now you can kind of see that whole barrel-y part, and you can, depending on what you have done already with this traditional brown, you could bring up a little bit more brown, or maybe you've got enough as it is. Make sure that the front part, make sure he looks like he's sitting in. I could bring the texture back with a rake brush too, if I felt like it. And do I like this? Might be too much. Don't make the back quite as definite. And you also want it to be, a little soft float here. Not a definite line of brown, but just a little soft float. Finish that up. I don't know, you can keep playing. A little bit here, a little bit there. Just kind of bring that down. The other thing I want to make sure about is I would like to make sure that he is nice and black right along here. We got the brown in there, and that's good, but I want the black in there too. Just keep looking at it and making sure that you like what you like. If you ended up putting it into like really super heavy, because it is a kind of a difficult color to work with, that pineapple. It's great. It's great to cover, but it is kind of pale. And so I just took that raw sienna and just kind of squished through it. And like I said, you could take your rake with the traditional burnt umber and bring it up this way too. We also did spiced pumpkin back in the first couple of steps there, so you could also put some spiced pumpkin there too. Alright, so I think the only other thing is little Mr. Parrot there, little Mr. Parrot friend. We're going to rebase him with the Hauser light. Just take your 2 filbert and rebase them. And smooth isn't going to be your friend for this particular little bird, because we want that feathery look. Alright, so we've got that. And then we're going to take our plantation pine, put out plantation pine and that citron green. I tried to find the brightest one that I could because I really wanted him to be a bright little guy. So again, still with that 2 filbert, and I'm putting in that plantation green so that I've got that separation between wing and body, and then I've got this little, I'm just kind of coloring it in along this edge to tuck him behind Gibbs's shoulder. And there is another wing shoulder thing happening right there. So just kind of doing little tippy tappies. Then we want to have a little bit of a shadow here along the neck. Think coloring. Let's put a little bit here, and also, you know, the feathery kind of a look, so down his back. Okay, so you see how it's kind of dabby, it's kind of no stripes, no harsh edges, but you can definitely see where cheek part would be in forehead and chest, etc. Well, let's just let that dry, and let's look at the beak. We might rebase that a little bit. So there's 3 parts to that beak. There's that little piece that comes across the nose, so it's fatter here and thinner there. You could rebase the eye too. We're just kind of fussing around waiting for that those greens to dry mostly. My brush is falling apart. Okay, so I'm thinking that's pretty good. And then we're going to go back to that 2 filbert. If you're working on the canvas, it takes a little bit longer to dry. The wood actually, the wood dries a little bit faster. Alright, so here we go with that citron green. And we want it bright here. And then you just need to fade it into your other greens. We want it a little bit bright there. We're going to do this a couple of times. So, and there's that shoulder. Okay. And then we'll do the same general idea on that cheek. A little bit on the forehead. Dab, 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 dab. Just dabbing away. And if you have to go into that dark green, that's fine. Just dab away. See if you can't let that green show through as well. Okay. Looking sort of budgie-ish, if that's a word. Then let's go back to the beak. The one round, and we're just going to put in a little highlight kind of thing happening there. So put a little black back on the brush, and we'll pick up a little tiny bit of white, make a gray, and we'll just stroke it on this part here, this top part, as well as that top beak part. And maybe we'll have to do it again. Oop, not too bright, just bright enough. Do you want to go one more time? One more time, and maybe that last time is more of a sparkle. There we go. Alright, by that time, this should be dry-ish. Now what I did was I went with that citron. You maybe could put the pineapple in it too, or white, doesn't really matter. And let's just sort of redo the same idea. Start where you want it the brightest. Dab, 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 dab. Right up here too. Dib, dab, dab. A little bit there. Do you want it brighter? There. Trying to make a handsome chest. So that's a little bit too bright, and that's okay, because then I'm going to go back with the citron green when it's a little bit more dry, and again, it's a transparent color. So this kind of the whole theme on this one has really been like you need to undercoat stuff, and then you need to put your actual color on. Just the way it works with some of these colors. When you're ready, you could put a little sparkle in the eye. I think we could probably do that now. And it seems to be at the back. See a little... There we go. I'll go one more time with this green. I wanted it to be like as much neon green as I possibly could, so I just kept going and going and going with this crazy green here. Now I like on this one those final little bits, and I'm gonna stick with the dirty brush. And I'm just going to go dashing it in. Picking up a little bit of white on that dirty brush and just perking it all up a little bit more. And notice how I've got this, you know, the shoulder is like way up here, and then the chesty part here, and then down. So like try not to make it straight across like that. Try to get that little bit of a curve thing happening there. So actually that worked out not too bad. I fussed around with my first one for quite a little while, and there you go. Second one doesn't work too bad. And so I think pretty much I like him. Only thing we need now is some whiskers. So check out the whiskers. I do have a little free video on how to paint whiskers on your pieces, on your kitty cats. I do recommend not to put them on when you're super tired, but to give yourself a little bit of a breather, make sure you like everything, maybe one coat of varnish on there, and then really make sure that you've loaded your liner up gently, and then think about what you're doing. Just kind of put them, paint them in the air, and then, you know, just kind of bring them around. They don't have to come necessarily to the cheek, but they should look like they would if they continued on. Same sort of thing with the eyebrows. Don't put them way down here. They actually come from up here. And even though he has one eye, he still has eyebrows. Living on the edge, I want to make them just a little bit brighter, because he did have extremely handsome eyebrows. Tuxedo cats, whiskers, and tuxedo cats usually do, actually. Just a little brighter there, and a little bit brighter there, and a little bit brighter. Alright. If you hate them, you can always go back with the black. And give them a wee trim. There we go. Sign and enjoy and put them on your little easel Happy Halloween!